Welcome back to the Nomad Summit podcast, where we dive into the people, places, and ideas that shape the global nomad movement. Today, we're joined by someone who's been a part of the Nomad Summit family since before the world changed, way back in Chiang Mai, pre-COVID. His name is Barny Mulcahy, and he's been a professional translator, a location-independent entrepreneur, and now a Buildathon winner. At this year's Buildathon, a week after the Nomad Summit in Chiang Mai in January 25, Barny and his team pitched an idea aiming to help authors and publishers localize books in unserved languages, and the jury loved it. So today we're going to explore his nomadic journey, how he runs a translation business on the road, what went down at the Buildathon, and what's next for the winning idea. My name is Palle Bo, and with me is Christoph from Nomad Summit.
Hello from Estonia.
Barny, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you.
So, Barny, I'm curious. You and I, we've been nomads since 2016. And what's your travel style like? How much do you move around? Do you have a home base?
Good question. Yeah, I know that my traveling style has become really more like a slow nomading. I have/had my home base in Colombia. Not in Medellin, a little bit outside, close to Pereira. Mm-hmm. But I'm really thinking, I just fell in love with Thailand so much that I might actually move there. So let's see about that. But yeah, in general, I'm thinking about having like 2 or 3 home bases. So it's going to be Europe or Germany and Thailand and maybe Colombia. So I would say, is that slow travel? Something like that. Yeah.
Slow madding.
Slow madding. There we go. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Visit Estonia, the most digitally advanced country in Europe and virtual home for many digital nomads.
Welcome, Barny. We have invited you because you are one of the OGs of the Nomad Summit. I remember you and me meeting in Chiang Mai. I guess it was end of 2019 before the last Nomad Summit, or even a year before. I'm not quite sure. And this year, with our first one coming back after the long COVID break, you were among the attendees as well. So that alone hints that you have an interesting story to tell, being a nomad, a location independent entrepreneur for quite a while. So please give us a little insight in how that journey went for you, where it started and what happened.
All right. Well, I'm happy to talk about my journey. It started in 2016. And it started with just an extended holiday after leaving. I worked for Universal Publishing, but the record publisher. And I was just sick of the corporate world and just went to India and just spent the money I got for, the leave. And after a while, I decided I want to continue doing this. And well, I just stumbled upon being a former legal manager that I could actually use my skill set in law, and also being English and German descendant, I could kind of mix this together by working as a translator, as a specialized translator, which I did, and it worked really well. I really liked that job, but I think, and when we met Christoph, things were still going quite well, but really everything started when COVID hit. It was just all of a sudden massive jobs, and I had more jobs than I was able to do. And all of a sudden it was just oh, wow, how would I pay my rent, more or less? I was always able to do that, but this was the first time that I was confronted with, oh, this is not as stable as I thought it would be. Yeah. And in the last 2 years, with the rise of AI, translation just went down and down, and the jobs became smaller and smaller. And there was an idea that I had around 2019, reading a very specialized, super niche ebook that was in English. And I was like, wait, it was about relationships, a very specific kind of unhealthy relationships. And I thought wait a second, there's such a big market of people who would also need to read this. And many of those just don't speak English. So what about these people? I know that there are published books. There are many books that are translated to other languages, but what about these millions of interesting good reads that I just never make it to being published by a big publishing house? So that idea kind of started working in me for quite a while. And and then Corona hit, my usual work just declined. And I had this idea that things just came together that I had to attend to the summit. That was really funny because it was kind of destiny that I was there. And I When there was a call for ideas, I was just like, okay, I got to walk up to that stage.
Barny, welcome to the stage. Woohoo!
Stage is all yours.
All right. Hello, everybody. The language of the internet is English. 1.5 billion people speak and understand English. 6 billion people don't. So that means if you are an author of an ebook or you are a creator of an e-course, you're missing out on 80% of the market that you could reach. So authors traditionally do that by getting signed by a big publishing company, but then you need to be really successful to be just in a position to be signed for another country, to be translated and marketed there. The other way you could do it is you just do it on your own. You have to speak the language of that new country though, because otherwise you have to hire a complete team and they have to be reliable and all of that, which is a pain. So I want to close that gap. I want to launch a company that is a one-stop solution to help creators and authors to launch a market that is non-English speaking. And I want to do the entire process from translating, localization to publishing, marketing, everything. Like we can even do customer support or a local website that's related to the product. So I want creators to be creative and want to help them to connect their content to the non-English speaking world. And that's my idea.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, next person.
Pale mentioned it in his opening words already. There is something that brings all this back together with Nomad Summit and your journey. And that was this year's Buildathon, like an idea that's a crossover of hackathon and actually building something. So the tagline of this year's Nomad Summit was for people passionate about building. And looking into the team and how Kai and myself first met on a hackathon here in Estonia back in 2019, it was clear we cannot have a Nomad Summit without a hackathon or something alike. And so it was especially her big passion project as a part of the Nomad Summit to call for ideas, call for teams of people who really want to build something that is new, that is maybe disruptive, and that will outlast Nomad Summit for the foreseeable future. And it looks like you, as the winner, have created something that just had it like its starting point at this Buildathon. So please tell us how that went for you, the Buildathon itself.
Of course, yeah. So first of all, before the Buildathon, there was this, we had to present our ideas, right? And it was, I think it was 20 ideas. And then the ideas were sketched by an artist, and people who wanted to participate in the Buildathon, they had to kind of vote their teams. There was this minimal threshold of 5 participants. So if you have 5 people, you get in round 2. And my project was, we barely made it above the threshold. There were teams who had like, I don't know, 15 members. I was really like, oh God. So we barely made it. Yeah. And the next day we met and started building, and the team was like, we were 4 people. Everybody, it was really cool because we first of all thought, like, I think all of us, we were very humbled by being the smallest team, which is barely 5 people. And there were teams with 15, 16 people. But after a while working together, we realized that it's actually a good thing that we're so small. We, like what they say about many cooks. So I was totally amazed by this team being very, very highly adaptable, really focused, just having an idea and walking down that road, especially with Marco, who's still on the team. We're going to talk about that later, but we were able to switch the idea because my basic idea was, having an English author that we bring into the Thai culture. But one of our team members pointed out that it would be the other way around would be really interesting too. And that's how the idea, how we have it now, also expanded to a little bit more of that. So a multilingual way of publishing books. So not just one directional, but multi-directional. So when we presented our idea, we were quite hyped about what we have to show here. So we had like a publisher's way of just having your local market until it's released in other countries and other languages. And we really liked our idea, but the other ideas were also very strong. So honestly, we didn't really think we would win. But in the end, when we did win, we were really super thrilled. And you can see the pictures that we are just grinning without being able to stop. This is, we know you look stupid, we just don't care. So that was quite fun.
So Barny, can you explain, because it's not something new that if you have a book in Thai or any language that you can translate it into English or into another language. What is it that makes yours, what you do, different?
So, great question. That has been also one of our key insights, is that who needs another book? Who needs another ebook? There are a million ebooks out there. So if you release another, let's say you're an author from Germany, because I'm German, and you're able to translate it to English, maybe on your own. But what about these other markets? So let's just say you have your book translated into Spanish and it's translated well. So it's not just translation, by the way, it's really adaptation of like speaking to the people, like making them feel what the author actually meant. So using totally different analogies, stories, currencies, for instance. But what we found out, what is very important, is to really bring the author and the potential reader that only speaks another language together. So we have found out that specialized tailored marketing is a really important part of what we want to offer.
And how do you do that? Is it hands-on, a person like yourself, a translator translating it, or is it AI-based, just so that I understand?
Yeah, that's a really important part. Also, we are still finding the best way to do it. As a translator, it is something where I use my old translation models, like, for instance, DeepL, and using the old software, but also really working with ChatGPT, creating prompts where you kind of point out the language and the type of voice of the author. And we're kind of like, right now, what I'm doing is blending them together. Like, okay, I like this part, I like this part. So what we want to do is to really offer a high quality translational, adaptational service from a translator, which is, we're still looking for the right job description, because it becomes less and less translation. And we're also speaking with other translators. They're not very open to this idea. So we're more looking for linguists in these fields that are really excited about what technology can do, because we want to offer really cheap translation and adaptation, but with really great quality and the small turnaround time. That's also one of the important factors.
Do you see the bigger market potential of that if you take English books or books that are published in English in the first place and then localize them to many, many languages? Or do you first want to focus on authors that publish in a smaller language audience and bring them to the world market by publishing it in English?
Well, first of all, the field that we first, for the foreseeable future, want to focus on is self-help, self-development books, because if you go into the fiction field, the voice of the author is more important than with, for instance, self-help books, where the message is more important, to keep the exact wording. Our first book is going to be English with the author Jeremy Newsom, to German and to Spanish. So we're going to test out these markets first. The German market is interesting because I can translate it on my own. I can test out the mechanics and how we can really maximal use technology. The Spanish-speaking market is extremely interesting and extremely more complex because there's so many countries, so many people that speak Spanish.
Oh, yes.
And after that, we are already looking for books like hidden gems that are really interesting. For instance, our linguist, who is from Colombia, he already had a couple of authors that would fill that space really well. Some of them are published. We're looking for the ones that are not published, but we can also work with publishers where we would say, like, all right, you would otherwise maybe not enter this market. We can help you. But we're mainly aiming towards authors that have just really self-published their work and where we see potential. With Jeremy Newsom, for instance, he has published his book on his own and he's sold 300,000 copies in the US. And there's a massive traction because he also plans on becoming the next governor from California. So there's a lot of traction here that we want to use. And his book is really cool. It's called Money Grows on Trees. Yeah, so it doesn't, game of words, right? It's money doesn't grow on trees, money grows on trees. But it has an interesting section, this book, which also really shows, it's a really interesting first product because he talks about the different ways of expressing this idea. In Germany, for instance, it's, as you know, Christoph, it's more money lies on the streets. So he goes into that. And that was a really interesting thought process. How far do we deviate from the original wording? There are many things to think about because we have, let's just say there's a lot of detail, a lot of interesting linguistic things to think about, but I think there's a massive potential there.
Before we continue, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Visit Estonia. If you're a remote worker dreaming of a digital-friendly base in Europe, Estonia should be on the top of your list. It's one of the most digitally advanced countries in the world, home to a thriving startup scene and an international community of nomads. There are two powerful ways Estonia can support your lifestyle. The Estonian Digital Nomad Visa lets you live and work legally in Estonia for up to a year. No visa runs, no gray zones. And if you're more interested in starting or running a business remotely, Estonia's e-residency program gives you access to their world-class digital business infrastructure, no matter where you are in the world. I've spent time there myself, and I can tell you the freedom, the community, and digital ease is the real deal. And in fact, Nomad Summit is registered as a company in Estonia for good reasons. We dropped the link to both things in the show notes.
One detail that I'm super interested in from a perspective of being a Nomad Summit host is how your teamwork evolves now. So with the Nomad Summit, we are on a mission to be the platform for people along this traditional journey to financial freedom and location independence, from being an employee to becoming a remote employee, a freelancer, a founder, and then ultimately business owner, living of dividends. So you have now told us the story of your transition from first being an employee to a freelancer. You've been working as a freelance translator for a long time. And it sounded to me like this is also your first serious major step into becoming a founder and working with co-founders on building a business. And as you found your co-founders at the Nomad Summit, I assume you are a location-independent business. You didn't open an office somewhere. So how does that work with your co-founders? How is your day-to-day remote distributed team culture evolving?
So we all work on different jobs, but we have twice a week, we have meetings that are where there are 3 different time zones. Sometimes because one of our founding members is right now in Europe, for instance, but he's from California. So he's kind of like all over the place. But we have Marco, who's in Hong Kong, and we have me, who's right now in Germany, but I'm going to be in Colombia. So there's always a little bit of a, when do we meet? We have that twice a week. We're having regular meetings, sessions where we just talk about how to navigate things, the next aims. But we also have working sessions where we really sit down for an hour and we just work. Because we found out it's really good to work together. I mean, the ideal thing is to really work together in person, which I could because one of our team members was here, and it's just a different kind of energy, a different kind of drive that you get, and you're motivated after that. So we were kind of having this typical remote thing, but we also all plan on being at the next summit in Chiang Mai, where we might just extend our stay to work together for a couple of weeks too, because I think that's very important to at least partially work together in a physical same place. Yeah.
If you need another, okay, I mean, super happy to hear that. Chiang Mai is a place where I've also always come to stay for a month or rather 2, as it provides the ideal infrastructure for remote work, but also just to work with everything you need around co-working spaces and coffee shops and good food. But if you need an earlier occasion for that, we'll have a Nomad Summit here in Estonia in August as well. So if you want to bring your team together, I'm pretty sure we can support and help you find the right co-working spaces and the infrastructure that you need around in Europe.
That's good. Interesting.
So what has it meant for you guys to win the Buildathon? What did you get out of it?
Free tickets for the next summit. No, just kidding. No, mainly just for me personally, it was just so cool to have like an outside validation of like the stuff I'm thinking about, the ideas I'm thinking about. They're not just nonsense. They're actually, there's something that's valuable. So that just has a really motivational effect on myself, on other ideas and projects that I have. But for this specific project, which is really a project coming from my heart, it was just like we were really excited about this, and we were just directly after winning it thinking of what's the next step, how can we go anywhere. And where Marco is somebody who's out of the field, he's been in the entrepreneurial field for quite a while, and he was also the first person that told me when I told the idea to a couple of guys at the summit, and everybody was like, yeah, and he was like, that's a really good idea. And he, with his background, was a very big motivation that someone like that likes my idea. And he was excited. We all were excited. So it was, we tried to carry that wave of motivation into actually working on the project. And I think we're still working on it. So yeah, it worked.
Do you have any advice for people thinking of participating in next year's Buildathon?
Yeah, go for it. It's just amazing if it works. And even if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that anything is a bad idea or something, but just to getting into the realm of working out on ideas or working on other people's ideas, just to build something and to create something that's in this creative process is extremely, how we say, verifying. It's just it fulfills a need that you didn't even know exists in you. It's really like, oh yeah, it's so fun to create something from scratch with other people. Yeah, that's really cool.
Very happy to hear. And especially when there are hackathons happening all around the world all the time, especially in these major innovation hubs where startups thrive. But what we wanted to create and bring to life for the first time was this very local and international integration. So like bringing all these international entrepreneurial minds to Chiang Mai, but also activate the local community, the university, local startup hubs of Thai people that so far barely had contact with international collaborators. So I think you had some Thai people in your team as well, right?
Yes, we had Bank, who was a really good UE designer who helped us really well. And also he was the one who actually gave me that idea of like, maybe we should do it the other way around. So that was really cool. Like his suggestion, like thinking out of the box. He made that suggestion and I was able to see his point. And we kind of changed the concept, and that shows how good the team was. We were able to kind of like turn everything around I would say like we were 1/3 done and then we changed everything. So I really liked it. I don't think that would have worked with a big team, for instance. So, and we also had Alexandra on our team who jumped on board and was the creative mind behind getting all these ideas together. So it was really cool. It was a really cool way of working. And I also wanted to give out a shout out to all the Thai people because I could see how shy they were in the interaction with us, in how they presented it. And I really would love to see them being more confident about this because they have so many great things to give and so much knowledge and everything. I would really love to help the Thai culture to become a little bit more, I would just say just like be aware of their own worth. So there's no international competition that they should feel that they can't live up to. So they're great people, friendly people, but also really, really competent and phenomenal co-workers as well.
You have won this Buildathon, and it really looks like you are on an interesting trajectory with what you're building here. You have sent us your pitch deck beforehand to have a look, and I guess we'll come back to that in a second. But at first, the typical question every location-independent entrepreneur and founder has, did you incorporate that as a company already? And if so, where and why?
Well, the funny thing is that my 3PO, which is our name, like it comes from an obvious connection that I won't mention here. Whoever knows where it comes from or where it's similar to knows. But I actually founded that name as an LLC in the States 2 years before that. So it was just meant for my translational adventures, but I never actually used it for that. So it's just perfect, like things just matched. That's why I actually have this LLC and now I can really use it.
So you chose one of those classic digital nomad setups of being a perpetual traveler and having a US LLC registered in America.
Correct, yes.
Which is also a vehicle that is, I would say, quite useful when you look into funding. So when I looked into your pitch deck, it sounds like you are currently on the hunt for the right angel investor.
Yeah, that changed, for instance. We're not so sure about this. So we are actually thinking about going the shoestring route just because we are... It's mainly going to be, we need to build a good connection with authors. We need to have the brand that's more popular and more known to the market. It's not that we are against angel investors, but we're not desperately looking for them right now. We're looking for collaborators. We're looking for people who really like the ideas. We're also really looking for authors that are interested in what we can offer and that have a content that actually works with what we are looking for. But as investors, well, we can talk about this, but it's not like a, please investors come, our idea is great, we need the money. Right now, we are getting to a point where we might look for investors eventually, but it's not necessarily our main aim right now.
So currently you're still bootstrapping and you are solving the problems now first among your team. So what is the current problem? What is the bottleneck that you're currently working on?
Well, first of all, I want to highlight that we all are aware that AI is changing everything. So, and it's totally possible that in the not too far future, many things of these things, for instance, the translation, adapting and keeping everything very localized is something that we can really, that will not be necessarily the thing that we solve best because there are going to be many competitors. What we want to establish is a funnel that works already where we can just like provide even cheaper translations, and cheaper steps. The bottleneck right now is, I would say, first of all, like having a good setup that we know, like creating a good funnel, creating the secret sauce to have everything pre-translated in a way for different languages that work well, where the linguist has a little bit of work. I would say right now the bottleneck is still the translation adaptation part that takes longer as it should. Because we want to provide a cheap solution, but we also want to provide a really good solution. So finding that and finding the right people for that in the right languages, that's going to be an interesting field. Yeah. And also we want to, first of all, our marketing steps are going to be, because books sell different than many other products. Many of them work with word of mouth. So we want to get readers. We're looking for readers that actually give reviews, like honest reviews, real reviews, and to just get the word of mouth out there for books.
So if you imagine that this podcast has an infinite number of listeners and you have now the opportunity to shout out to them. So who of them should call you? Who of them should send you an email?
Authors, publishers that are independent publishers, I would say, that like the idea, that want to work with us or with part of what we offer. Angels investors who like the idea so much that they want to contribute, even though we might not get into direct discussions about that, but just to plan a way that we could work together in the future. And everybody who's listening who wants to know more, I'd love to share ideas and share ways of making this a even broader idea. My passion behind this is just to remove the limitations of language, to certain specific thing. I really think that was part of my main presentation. We all assume that English, being the language of the internet, is understood by everybody on earth. And living in Colombia, for instance, I think 4.6% of the Colombians speak English. That was my motivation for there's such a massive market out there, and we in our little bubble, we just don't see it.
Yeah. Being a book guy, I just have to ask you before we wrap this up, what is the one book that we nomads, location independent entrepreneurs should read? What is your recommendation if you could only pick one book?
The one book. I actually think it's Into the Wild, because this is a guy who went where many nomads actually dream of going, and he experiences something for us that tells us how important it is. No matter how independent driven you are, you need community to a certain extent. I think it's something that really, it saves you a lot of pain, and it shows you have to kind of like keep it together. No matter, an endless freedom, people say, is endless falling. There's truth to that too.
Yeah, and that's made into a movie as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great book, great movie.
Barny, it was such a pleasure having you on the Nomad Summit podcast. And if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
All right, cool. This is the first time that I can officially use our company email. So it's going to be at my3po.com, and you can go for Barny, that's Barny without an E. Barny at my3po.com. I think info at my3po.com works just as well. And yeah, please feel free to contact me. It'd be nice.
We'll put that in the show notes in every channel where we publish this podcast. So wherever you're listening this right now, you will find the contact information of Barny, and most probably also the link to the video recording of all the pitches leading up to the Buildathon in Thailand.
And stupid grinning winners.
Looking forward to seeing you again, maybe in Estonia in August, or if not before, then in Chiang Mai in January 26.
Perfect. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Produced by radioguru.co.uk.